Shows it's going through,
Okay.
and got my standard error message, but that usually means it went through. Okay. So good, folks. We are live here on Quantum Leap with David and Corey, and good to be back for our segment. I know this we've been meaning to do this one for a priority because it's kind of a bread and butter of this show on business networking. But first, I wanted to introduce my co-host Cory and I, and if Corey, if you don't mind just telling us who you are and kind of how you got started business networking.
Yeah, so I'm Cory Knott. I'm co-owner of Take Wing Coaching, and I do coaching for business partnerships. I started networking in well, I think my first time networking, I went to a chamber mixer in, I don't know, 2001 or something like that. Hated it. I was doing software development then, very kind of shy and unassuming, and I had kind of an informal partner online that we were doing some projects together with. And so she was encouraging me to check out BNI. And I wound up doing that. And that really became most of my networking for a long time. And largely because it resulted in some pretty big referrals. And then I got back into it after a stint at Electronic Arts and really took off with it. I did, well, a lot of training in networking with Referral Institute, it was called, which is a BNI sister company formed by Ivan Meisner for coaching on that. And after 5 years of that, I actually became an owner of a Referral Institute franchise. So I was training people on networking and upping their game as in referral marketing.
Great, and I know when I joined BNI Business Networking International about 5 years ago, and that was really the start of my, systematizing networking, so to speak. And I learned a lot of this stuff from you. Was so interested in it, and that's why we started the podcast, which has kind of continued that growth curve. And what I want to talk about today is just how to get started networking, maybe you're beginner, maybe you're intermediate, how to step up your networking. And I really think there's a whole system to it, and there's really a lot more than meets the eye. And there's also some barriers, I think, to get started that Corey really helped me with, and he can help others with, that we're going to talk about. And also some at the end, I'm going to give some additional resources, and Corey is welcome to do so as well. But I really find that the most important thing is to be part of a group that is going to give you some networking opportunities, some people that are kind of your close colleagues. And, for us, the difference was BNI, and I think so many, especially small business owners, that is the difference when they join BNI, because then you see it in action. And, it doesn't have to be BNI, it could be some other group, although I'm not as familiar with anything that's as I'd say as efficient as BNI, like maybe the Kiwanis Club or a Rotary, because their focus isn't so much business. But how would you say, how pivotal is BNI? Are there any other groups out there for networking that might be useful, like chambers of commerce, etc.?
Yeah, well, I mean, BNI is focused on referral marketing. So many networks are not. They are focused on, face to face or um, other types of informal networking. We call it visibility networking, which means you're just getting your face in front of people and hopefully getting them to remember your name. And that can be a slow way to try to do business, but it is also a good way to meet people in your community and feel more connected. There are skills you can use to build referrals, but as far as networking goes, that's useful. BNI is for those who want to use networking to actually build their business in a more deliberate manner and have a structure for doing so, a structure and accountability. And other groups like BNI, so there's another one called Provisors, which has really kind of taken over a lot of my life. And Provisors is more of a B2B business. It's about 70% lawyers and then other people who act as trusted advisors. So it can be, for those people who are looking for a more for a different flavor of referral marketing. They don't have the same rules as BNI, but and there's a lot of crossover. There's a number of people like myself who are in both groups because the value is different on both sides.
Yeah, and you actually have to be in business for 10 years, is that correct, in provisors?
You have to have been in your profession for 10 years. So there's, a fair number of people are new in business, but they might be in their profession for a while, CPAs, accountants, that type of thing, or attorneys, starting their own. And some people are, they're not business owners, they're, working for a firm. But so provisors can also be a place to find people to refer. It can be a great resource. It's not always about getting business. BNI is more about usually about getting more business is kind of it starts forward with that, whereas provisors can be more about I need to build a network of people who can take care of my people. Attorneys especially appreciate that because they do a lot of referrals out.
Great. And one thing when I first joined BNI that I really saw was a key thing to have and is a 30-second elevator pitch. I saw the people who were most successful, especially like you or others, they really had this down how to talk about their business. And what would you say is the importance there? And well, first, well, what is this elevator pitch and how do you get that if you don't have it?
Yeah, that's it's challenging to get everything stuffed into 30 seconds. And I think there was Michael McDonough in the Alameda referral group. He would often talk about what we call log lines, which are in Hollywood is a way to pitch a script in 15 seconds, right? You really have to get somebody's attention before they just, shut off and move to the next person. So I think if you think about in 15 seconds, can you capture somebody's attention? And then in your other 15 seconds, can you give them a call to action and, what makes a good referral? So the infomercial is basically a combination of that. It's attention, it's a story, and it's who makes a good referral and what's the call to action. And 30 seconds is it's good to have that. It can also be a value proposition. So I actually think that something a story is very good or a value proposition. So very specific, right? Like I help protect relationships when people are going into business together. And so a good referral for me are spouses who are starting a business together or maybe not getting along well in their business. And a way to refer them to me would be a simple consultation on what could be done better.
Yeah, and I know you can always tell kind of a red flag for me is if somebody's new to their business, you can tell by how they talk about it a lot of the time that maybe that person's fairly new to it. And I'll admit I'm not the best at talking about my business sometimes, but when I really focus on it, I can be at least be okay, I think. And sometimes you do buy yourself more time in that 30 seconds. It turns into a minute or 90 seconds, but I think is that a course that you used to give called Room Full of Referrals really breaks this down to kind of a science of, we're really looking at those like high value folks out there who you may only have 30 seconds. If you don't give them something good, they might walk away, what mid sentence or whatever. So I think it's very important to get that down and then how to talk about it maybe in a minute. If you do get a follow up, how to talk about it. And, there's a whole science to that. And we're, we're just kind of getting into some of the basics here, but maybe we'll return to that at some point. The next topic I wanted to actually move to was the importance of the internal work and how you talk about your business. And this is what really builds confidence. I'd say your flight plan modules that you have on Lyft, if you check out this book too, How to Grow Your Small Business. So we may be weak on certain points of our business. I think the most common thing is sales and marketing is where, there's really, you can never learn enough on it. This is a good way to get you started. But what would you say are the key elements of a business that you kind of need to have at least like working knowledge that are going to benefit you in this networking game? For example, you talk about this analogy, the airplane, where you have all these components. Ideally, you have them all dialed in. Otherwise, you can't keep that airplane in the sky.
Yeah, it's It's a well, yeah, we use that, as our, we love those flight lingos, but there's a lot to know about being in business. And some people just kind of get started and throw things out there because they do what they love. I did that when I did my software business. There was really no, I had really no idea how to be in business other than just I wanted to do what I did for a lot of different people. I always wanted to own a business. And the challenge is that things, growth can happen very fast, change can come very quickly, and even market, external conditions can happen very quickly. So it's good to have a base of knowledge to work with on how to run a business versus how to work in your business. A lot of small business owners are really essentially trading a job for a another job, right? They're just hiring themselves out for jobs, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but just it may or may not be the intention. So they all those moving parts. We don't necessarily have to know every single one of them, but it's good to have people that we can rely upon to help do those things. We can't know everything about marketing, and trying to do it all is frustrating and paralyzing for most people. So having somebody who can do the marketing is very helpful. I tend to be the type of person who wants to do it all, but I can't.
Yeah, yeah, and we are always going to be weak in certain things, and that's why we have help. I'd say that's the hardest thing about being in business. And I had this full page slide off to get again, but if you look at this book, there's this airplane, and this author breaks down each of the parts of the airplane as kind of an analogy for certain things. Like the cockpit is leadership,
Right.
and these are then there's marketing is actually one of the right engine. He says sales is the left engine, so marketing and sales give you that lift. The products are the wings, so you have to, and this is something that Donald Miller is very good in, is how to get your products styled in. For example, you do coaching, it's really key, like what that package is, what it looks like, has to be enticing, how you look at, how you sell it, in short order. And then there's overhead and operations and cash flow, and I'd say a lot of times people are the weakest in those, but you got some time to learn. You can, when you start bringing in more cash, you're forced to get better at that. So this is a good introduction book. Also check out Cory's website, and he has a flight plan module in on Take Wing coaching if you join the lift, which you actually have a special on it. And now we mentioned what the next topic I wanted to move on to, um, about what makes BNI different. But I think this distinction, which you touched on earlier about referral marketing versus networking, could you just tell us a little bit about what the distinction is there and why referral marketing is so unique than just simply going out and meeting people, networking?
Yeah, networking is about, again, like I said, meeting people, and there's number of reasons you can go out to meet people. I mean, some people just want to know other people in the business community. I think that's very valid. And there's a number of people who go out networking because they're told they got to do it to grow their business, and it can be really more prospecting, right? Like you're a prospect, you're a prospect, you're a prospect. If you need me, insurance people do a lot of that. At least they used to, and they're new in that they go out and they just hand out their business card to everyone and hope that somebody will give them a call, or they can call them if they're willing to make those calls. And so referral marketing is really the step up. It's the game of building relationships with the idea that the right people can refer you business. And the more intentional you are about it, the more structured you are about it, the more successful you can be at it, in terms of finding the right people who are in front of the kind of people who would be good clients for you. And that can be really challenging for people to figure out. BNI has all the tools necessary to figure that out, but most people don't necessarily take advantage of the education. They join the group, but the benefit of BNI is, again, as I said, the accountability, the structure, the education. It's that's right there for people, and it's just that weekly show up and be seen part. But there's still work to be done. It's not, just because you pay for it doesn't mean it's going to give you results. It's very inexpensive marketing because, I mean, what it costs, 50, 75 a month, and it's very inexpensive because it's really about time built into relationships and intentional work, right?
Yeah, and the best way is to just come see how it's done. I think that's one of the big strengths of BNI's too, is that you learn by watching almost more than anything else. That like this concept of power partners, for example, that people who refer you business, that for me, those people tend to be marketers or event coordinators, oftentimes business coaches too, people who can, have a strong relationship with the client that say, hey, you should do a video with David, or you might think about that.
Right.
And, but you really see how people use these power partners in BNI, and it was really a eye-opening experience for me. And it's not to say, I think a lot of people who aren't in BNI use a lot of these same techniques, but it's almost like, how do you learn that without something like BNI or having a mentor maybe in the normal business world, for example. Um, so, um, well, if you do want to get started in BNI, come visit a chapter. There's a number in the Bay Area, and I'll put the link for BNI in the East Bay, but also maybe the broader one. So just find a chapter in your area. It's free. Come check it out.
Awesome.
Um, Now, here's kind of a wild card question about just your game plan in selecting business networking events. Like, how do you construct your business networking kind of game plan? I know it's one of the best advice you gave me, for example, when I first was starting out was join some other big network besides BNI because you need more than just BNI. But I was because you seem to just have kind of a number of different events and things that you do for your networking.
Um, ask me that again. I'm sorry. There's something that got thrown off.
Yeah. I'm just curious if
Wait,
you don't mind give me the lay of the land for your strategy with networking. Do you try to go to uh, chamber events, or what's your criteria for selecting the types of events and also groups that you join? I think a lot of your networking is really built into the groups that you're part of is really the key thing first. Like Provisors, for example, you weren't a member of that until just recently or a year or two ago, I believe.
Yeah. Well, my strategy is to find the right referral partners, really, and I haven't really been doing as much of that lately because I've been honing my message, but I think I've got that down now. And I find that, the people who can refer me are the ones who are already talking to people about how to run their business, and or they're people who are looking to spend money on doing something, and going into partnership is high risk. So I want to find those people who can have that conversation with, potential business owners or existing business owners. And then sometimes I find people just in networking in general because they're like, oh, I have a partner and we have some issues. And I found that to be effective, but that doesn't always work. It's not a really high source of business. My typical types of clients don't refer me as much, so um, that's not a reliability thing. But some people do find that they get a lot of referrals, like a good contractor or somebody in health. Once they start getting clients in the door and doing a good job, they tend to get referrals from their clients as well. It's not necessarily the best source, but it can be a good source. So my strategy really is using BNI to find my referral partners. And I don't just stick with my chapter. I try to, reach out to other people in other groups who are a good fit. I did that with my software business and it did amazing for me. And I met with web developers, computer people. I even asked my referral team for referrals to IT people in their lives, ones who worked in corporate or had businesses but didn't do networking, because my specialty in programming was such that if they had a need, they could reach out to me and I could either make it a good fit for me or find somebody who could do it. And so I think that this is a way, intentionally building a network is finding those referral partners. And either you can go really deep with a few, which is something, it can be very valuable, or you can go I would say medium to high credibility with a larger number of people. But it takes some intention and it takes relationship building. So um, showing up is one of the biggest things. I'm finding that the people improvisers that seem to do best are the ones who show up at a lot of places. That or they're really specialized. So find a niche is also important. People find it easier to refer somebody who is specialized. David does video for people who want to be, industry or thought leaders, right? And it's not video for everyone, weddings and all these other things. And maybe you will, David, I don't know. But the point being that if you say this is exactly the kind of person I want to work with, it's easier for people to know when it's a good referral for you.
Yeah, I don't get as much referred now because I always say video for business is kind of my short tagline because
Right.
I refer that out. The one other thing I know we're almost at time here in about 4 minutes for our 11 a.m. guest is this concept of regional, like, some, for example, trades, like they say, okay, I'm only going to do business in Oakland proper or, you know, a certain region because of traffic or traveling. But how do you approach the different regions for your business, or how might a business owner think of the regions? For example, I think for me, it's really the East Bay is like Oakland's kind of connected to get word around Oakland, but also this inner through the tunnel, we call it over here, where it's like Walnut Creek. And of course, I'd love to look at Pleasanton and Livermore, but it's harder to make it out to as many events out there, although I'm going to try here.
So I'll speak to that because I think it's something that I have seen. It's really unfortunately common that people will spread out their net to catch as many people as possible, right? It's like if I can cover more of the ocean, I will catch more fish. And that's not really the best way to do things. It's time consuming. It tends to be visibility networking. People don't get to know you as well. It doesn't do your niche. When I started the Referral Institute program, when I bought the franchise for Oakland, I asked Mike Macedonio, who was the owner and franchisor, if I could expand beyond Oakland and cover more of Alameda, right? Because my colleague was doing all of Contra Costa. Well, he said to me, he says there are 40,000 businesses in Oakland. How many how many of them are you actually marketing to? And the point being is that these areas that we work in often have more than enough business. We just have to go deep on the marketing, find the people who are local, who have influence, who can be good referral partners, and work on that because it saves a lot of time in the end, right? A lot of travel time. I like networking. I like going out and traveling. I like going out and meeting people. I have fun doing it. It's one of the few things that gets me out of my office because otherwise I'm a wallflower introvert. Um, but it is also a realization that if I want more business, it's better off I just go deep, like I focus on Oakland, in my case, maybe Oakland and Contra Costa. Um, but there's enough people. There's enough people doing partnerships even in these small areas. So becoming a thought leader is spreading my wings and letting the world know. But eventually, I want to hire more coaches and train them on how to do this. But I think the people who do best are the ones who just say, this is my neighborhood, this is my area, this is my region. I'm going to stick to it, and I'm going to become the qualified, known expert for that. And I think when we had Mark on last week, Mark Cooper is a perfect example of that. It's like, this is my neighborhood. This is all I focus on. There's plenty of business for me. He's done very well. He's got a little bit of business in Richmond, maybe just because he wanted to do something different, which is also okay, but just realize that it means a whole nother level of marketing. So the more you go out and market, in different areas, it's almost like a whole nother marketing plan you've got to create. And how many of those do you really want to do?
Yeah, well put. And I was just thinking of Mark actually there, and this is something I've kind of struggled with. How far do I go out, and then I get spread too thin, and also gas is a lot out there. So if I was doing a multi shoot, an hour away, then you're yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
right. Then you got to go back, right? And do the work.
Yeah. Yeah. Well put. Well, we're going to leave it there for our 11 a.m. segment. I did want to just show a couple resources before we sign off here. There was those Donald Miller books, the How to Grow to Your Small Business. Then there's also Story Brand. We're going to talk about this Story Brand book in a couple weeks here in more detail. And Ivan Meisner, we have these in our B&I libraries, and a lot of these books were written in the 80s and 90s on just referral marketing, and there's
Also
just
been up
tons of great resources you can get used on eBay for like $4 or $5. And this referrals now. There's networking like a pro. Um, there's like masters of networking. So just look up this best world's best known marketing secret. So
there.
get up to speed on business networking, and you can come visit us or contact us for more info. And with that, we're going to sign off on this first segment of Quantum Leap. We'll see you back with our guest here momentarily. And thanks for listening.